You might think you're failing, losing focus, falling behind, getting weaker. But what if nothing is wrong with your effort? What if the real problem is how much you're carrying while still trying to function? Most people don't collapse from weakness. They slow down because the load became invisible. We usually define failure as not doing enough, not pushing hard enough, not staying consistent. But there's another explanation that rarely gets named. Overload doesn't always look dramatic. It doesn't always feel like panic or burnout. Often it feels quiet, mental fog, low tolerance, a body that resists movement without explaining why. You can still show up, still perform, still function, and yet something inside you is already over capacity. Because overload isn't about how much you do, it's about how much you're holding while doing it. Holding tension, holding awareness, holding responsibility for outcomes, moods, and expectations. When a system carries too much for too long, it doesn't quit loudly. It slows, it conserves, it reduces output to protect itself. That isn't failure, that's regulation. Not all weight is visible. Some of the heaviest load isn't tasks, it's emotional monitoring, reading the room, adjusting your tone, anticipating reactions, preventing conflict before it happens, staying appropriate, staying together, staying safe to be around. This kind of load usually forms early, when staying alert mattered, when being steady protected something, when relaxing wasn't neutral, it was risky. So your system learned to stay slightly braced, not tense enough to notice, but never fully at ease. Over time, that background tension starts to feel normal. You don't feel stressed, you just feel tired. And because there's no obvious crisis, you assume the problem must be motivation, or discipline, or willpower. But your system isn't lazy, it's weighted. This is where people get confused. They try to rest, and it doesn't work. The body doesn't soften. The mind doesn't quiet. Stillness feels uncomfortable instead of restorative. That's not because rest is wrong. It's because rest requires safety, not just the absence of activity. If your system learned that alertness was protective, then letting go feels unfamiliar, even threatening. So instead of relaxing, the body stays slightly guarded, waiting, listening, holding. That's why you can take breaks and still feel depleted. The load hasn't been removed, only the movement stopped. And a system that learned to survive through vigilance doesn't drop that strategy instantly. It loosens slowly, in layers, when pressure actually reduces, not just pauses. When overload becomes chronic, people turn it inward. I'm not who I used to be. I should be able to handle this. Others manage. Why can't I? But overload changes how you see yourself. It makes normal limits feel like personal flaws. It makes conservation look like avoidance. It makes protection look like weakness. You're not failing at life. You're responding to weight that hasn't been acknowledged. A system that's overburdened doesn't need more pressure. It needs less load, less expectation to carry everything silently, less requirement to be composed all the time, less responsibility for what isn't yours to regulate. This isn't about becoming stronger. It's about becoming lighter. You don't need to fix yourself. You don't need to push through this. And you don't need to prove resilience. If something in you is slowing down, that doesn't mean you're failing. It means your system is asking for relief, not judgment. And sometimes the most accurate response is an effort. It's permission to put something down. No rush, no conclusion, just a little less weight and a little more room to breathe.